Well, hey now. You notice there's no fill light here, a little bit in the shadows. The outdoor deck summer version of Fitz's Electric Bar, and glad to have you on board. It's been a while since I've posted anything, and I thought I would do some recent vinyl acquisitions. You know, some weeks, some months, there are many purchases, and other times I try to restrain my purchases if there isn't anything that really grabs me. And things often kind of come in chunks, like in terms of things that I become interested in, and then I start to focus on that artist or that genre or whatever. So starting off, I'm going to talk a little bit about Brazilian music. I am a complete neophyte when it comes to Brazilian music, but to me, the summer is a particularly good time to listen to Brazilian music. It just feels like much of the airy, it just feels like summer when I listen to Brazilian music. And if it's the middle of the winter in the Pacific Northwest and I want to change my mood, usually I want to go deeper down into my mood, but I want to change my mood, I will put on some Brazilian music. So maybe one of the first artists, well, look at that, always cleaning windows. Van Morrison there in the background. First artist I think that I got into the Brazilian was Dori Caymmi. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it right. Send in the Clowns, the first track off of this. But again, beautiful guitar work, and highly recommend this record. It's called If Ever I Don't Have It on Vinyl. Don't have anything by him on vinyl. But when I was living in Tokyo, this was a CD I played quite often. It just felt like a great sort of counterpoint, or it was like the opposite of the feeling of being in Tokyo, the energy, the people, the crowds. This kind of created space, felt like you're by the water. I think it's no coincidence that the back has got the ocean there. It's just kind of, it's very evocative of that kind of music. Another one more recently that I got into was Milton Nascimento, La Borges, Club de Esquina. This is a well-known, in the vinyl community, a pretty well-known record. It's a really a wonderful double album of Brazilian music, and sometimes hard to get. And I was very happy when they reissued this and I was able to pick this up, and I really liked it. Probably the artist that got me completely more recently got me completely into Brazilian music is Arthur Verocai. Now, I've talked about this record before, but this is constantly in my front of my pile. This is a record that I've enjoyed listening to from the moment I heard it, and it just continues to be a record that I put on over and over again. In fact, famously, Madlib, who I think may have sampled something from here, said that this is a record he could listen to every single day to the day he dies, and I totally get it. I think starting off your day with Arthur Verocai is a great way to start your day. Again, it's so hard for me to articulate what it is about, let's say, Brazilian music, but it's different than anything else, and yet it sounds so damn Brazilian. So continuing on with Brazilian music, so somehow this particular artist has come through my feed, and I started to listen to him. He's a guitarist, a Brazilian guitarist, born in Brazil. He spends, I think, half his year living in the US and half his time living in Japan. He has collaborated with a Japanese, I don't know if it's a shamisen or koto or guitar player, but, you know, has strong Japanese influences. And that one was called, I think, Los Harmônicos. I'm not sure if I've got that exactly right, but his name is Fabiano Nascimento. Fabiano do Nascimento. Now, no relation to the Milton Nascimento that I showed earlier. Brazilian guitarist. This is a really, I really like this record. It's got, really Brazilian sounding guitar work. Very simple, stripped down, but beautiful. Really a beautiful record. This one I'm not as sure about. This is a little more experimental. He plays with artists. There's sort of like an orchestra of people who've created instruments out of, I think he said, PVC piping, and it's all been tuned, and it's sort of got almost like a seashell or, kind of almost tropical sounding wood instruments. And it's really quite nice, a little more experimental, a little bit less melodic for my taste. It's really interesting, this pipe sticker, because it says recommended if you like. So if you like this, you might like that. And on this list, Dorothy Ashby, João Gilberto, and Sam Gendel, who I think he's performed with before, and a lot of others I don't know, but I think that's a kind of a nice thing for people to consider if they're going to make a blind buy. And then along with that first one I showed of you this is his most recent one. This is with Vitor Santos Orchestra. So this has got the string arrangements. And I love it when they bring strings into, pop records. Like I think about Beck's Morning Phase and Sea Change, and there's so many others. I think Jeff Buckley has got that as well. And of course, there's just so many others that have successfully incorporated strings into their music. And this is really nice. I love this. This is just one of the great ways to kick off the day, is to put this on. It's just very soothing, and yeah, it just makes you feel like everything's going to be okay. Another artist that I've been recently getting back into, not that I ever went out of getting into. I've shown before, probably the oldest and most played record in my whole collection of records. This was an original, you can see it's a masking tape holding it together, of David Bowie live at the Tower of Philadelphia. And this is around basically the Thin White Duke era. And this is with Earl Slick. I think this is after Diamond Dogs came out, and this is a great live record. This was kind of, for me, a greatest hits experience in a sense, because it was really capturing David Bowie live, of everything he'd done up to that point in time in his career. And a wonderful record. Well, recently it was reissued and expanded slightly, and it was a reasonable price, so I ended up picking this up, David live at the Tower Theatre. And it's now a 3-record release, and expand it out a little bit. I know one of the reasons I love is the Here Today, Gone Tomorrow, that is a wonderful song and a great performance, and that's on this reissue, but really enjoy it. I believe it was remastered. I think I've heard some people saying they didn't like it as much as the original. Upon early listens, I found that it was very consistent. I didn't really notice it being that much different. I think it's a great sound. It's a very clean sound. It's not like a lot of bottom end, but it's a really nice sounding record, and highly recommend it. That era, funny enough, I sometimes like to see what all music reviews say, and I think it was a 3-star, and it was one of those ones where I was just kind of shocked that it had such a low review. I think I prefer this even to Stage. But it was my first, sort of one of my early Bowie records, and so I guess that may have kind of informed my love of it, right? When it's sort of like one of the first things that you listen to, it becomes your favorite in a way that maybe surpasses what the general consensus is of that record. And just following along on the David Bowie kind of focus, when Black Star was initially released, it went out of print pretty quick, and I didn't want to pay the astronomical fees. You'll notice that this does not have the die cut, but it's still a nice package, and I really wanted to get this record. Just as most of us who are Bowie fans know, just a really unique and outstanding kind of cap to Bowie's career. It seems a little cold to say, what an artistic way to end his recording career, and obviously the end of his life. But it really is just an unbelievable kind of, like, the record itself is so wonderful. I think the song Lazarus is up there with, to me, of all of my favorite Bowie songs, it's got to be one of the ones up there. And this reissue, as I say, didn't have the die cut, but it does come with, this isn't going to do it justice because it's very dark and I'm in the shadows, but it does come with, again, like a really nice booklet, and it's got the I don't know what you call it, spot lacquer or whatever, it's a very nice package. And so if you are not aware, and you want to get this on vinyl. I don't know if they're going to continue to keep it in print, but I wanted to jump on it just in case it went out of print again. I'm very happy about that. One of my favorite singer-songwriters, Tim Buckley. He's somebody that I'm always going to be looking to fill in my collection. This one, Blue Afternoon, is a great record. I will say a little bit of a cautionary tale. This was a re-release. I got this secondhand, but this is a re-release on the Four Men with Beards. And it's not the greatest pressing. It's not bad, and luckily this is a clean copy, but it's definitely got a little bit of a thinness to it. And you know, when you're listening, sometimes it feels like it's not fully in the groove. There's just sort of a little roll off hiss. I don't know what the technical term would be for it, but a little disappointed in that. I'm trying not to spend too much money on getting reissues or originals of Tim Buckley. They usually seem to be in pretty poor condition, except for Greetings from LA, which you can get pretty clean copies pretty cheap, and it's a great sounding record. But I think this is, Tim Buckley to me is way overdue for an audiophile reissue. Now, I don't really want a super high-end thing. I don't really want to have 45 RPM, a bit like Mazzy. Generally 45 RPM, and the cost that comes with that is not my favorite listening experience or way I want to spend money, with a few exceptions when I want just absolutely the most incredible sound. But I'd like to see this be reissued maybe by Analog Productions or something as a 33 1/3 and get the really good quality. I'm assuming the master tapes are pretty good, but I don't know for sure. But if you don't know Jeff Buckley, strongly recommend that you give him a listen, because I just think he's one of the great singer-songwriters, and sadly I think he's thought of more now as the father of Jeff Buckley, and he's so much more than that. But the song Happy Time, I Must Have Been Blind, The Train, really this is an outstanding singer-songwriter record, released originally in I don't know, it was early 70s. It doesn't say here when this was originally released. This is a reissue from 2007. But fingers crossed that they'll do something more with that. I'm going to briefly talk about a couple box sets I got. Big Kamasi Washington fan. I do find like Kamasi Washington can kind of go way out there for me at times, but he's a real interesting cat. I really think that his music is interesting. Definitely takes you on a journey. Had the good fortune of seeing him play, I think, well, at least once, and actually met him and got signatures and all that kind of stuff. But really interesting guy. I remember he had a really big performance at Coachella one year, and it was quite well received. Anyways, this is a 3-record set. This is, by the way, called The Epic. And it is Volume 1. Volume 1 of The Epic. Volume 2. So the Volume 1, the album is subtitled The Plan. Volume 2, The Glorious Tale. And Volume 3, The Historic Repetition. So that's Kamasi Washington, got that. And another box I got, probably my 2 favorite Wilco records are Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, and I ended up getting the Super Deluxe box set. To be honest, I'm not really sure I needed that much. What is it, 10 or 12 records? This was, Summerteeth was on sale recently here, and got this for like 70 or 80 bucks, I think, or it's definitely less than 100. So here we have, I just think Summerteeth is fantastic, and some of the songs on here are among my favorites, among my top 20 or 30 favorites of Wilco. But Shot in the Arm, I think, is great. I'm Always in Love. How to Fight, like I've always loved Tweedy's ballads and quieter stuff too. How to Fight Loneliness, Via Chicago, I've mentioned before, maybe one of my all-time favorite songs of anybody. When You Wake Up Feeling Old. And then She's a Jar, just wonderful. So, you know, in the Jay Bennett era of Wilco, and just a wonderful record. I have not gone deep into the outtakes and alternates, But one of the things that's kind of interesting is Jay Bennett was really into this organ sound that he found, and it permeates the album, and there's a lot of experimentation on the outtakes, and some of it's really interesting, and I love that organ sound. It's a very rich, full, it's like electric piano organ sound, and it really is cool. So I'm looking forward to diving deeper into the outtakes here. What else do we have here? Okay, so now we go jazz. The first Shirley Horn record I got into, and she may not be everybody's jam, was this on CD. And this is Traveling Light. Shirley Horn, jazz female vocalist, but also she saw herself more as a piano player than a vocalist, although she's a great vocalist. Anyways, this CD is one I play a lot. And the title track, Traveling Light, I think is a really great track. Big City is a wonderful kind of like, let's have a drink and go hit the town. It's a little bit cheesy. As you know, I like my cheese, and it's really, really good. And actually the cover, And I Love Him, and I Love Her, the Lennon-McCartney, is a really sweet, sweet version of that. So Shirley Horn Trio, her on piano, Marshall Hawkins on bass, and Bernard Sweetney on drums. This is a really, really good record. Now, this was a purchase off of Discogs, I guess, and I got the Alto release. So I was looking into, I wanted to get the best quality sound, and this Alto reissue, which I think was in 1997, was the one to get. So I ended up getting this. The record is in excellent condition, which is great, and I'm really happy to have this in my collection. This is one that I've been kind of searching for a while. Now, a few Enos. I won't say too much about it, but B.D. Wolf with Brian Eno. These are recent releases. He released a trio of albums. This is one with the vocals of B.D. Wolf with Brian Eno. I will say in many ways it's more of the same, really. I mean, he's so unique in his styling that it's not that different than a lot of his other stuff. But I love Brian Eno. So this is the instrumental album, Lateral and Luminal. The sun's coming in. I mentioned I just recently got Morning Phase on vinyl. I've had it on CD for a while. Sea Change may be my favorite Beck record, and this is kind of more of the same. I've often found this to be a step down from Sea Change, but I think mostly it's just because Sea Change to me is so high up, and this is kind of more of the same. And but I'm starting to enjoy it just in its own right, and not comparing it as much to Sea Change, so Morning Phase. And I'm really looking forward to, in September, I've got tickets to see Beck live, and I think he's putting out a record in September that sounds the Ride Lonesome Tour or something, which is named after the album that's coming out, and it just sounds like, and I've heard that it's going to be kind of almost like a third in the Sea Change Morning Phase kind of tone, but we'll see what it is when it arrives. And then just wrapping up, this was a really nice surprise. So I think, was this a record store day? Maybe not. Lou Bond, knew nothing about him. Saw that this record was being repressed. They kind of refer to it as sort of a hidden classic. Memphis soul cult classic, meaning it didn't sell very well the first time. And I really enjoyed what I heard. Beautiful voice, nice soul, actually some nice strings in here. And yeah, To the Establishment is a song that is really worth listening to. So Lou Bond, I think he only put out the one record, and I've been really enjoying that. Good summer record. And I have been trying to offload some records that I'm just not really playing much or don't really feel like I need in my collection. Very slowly on Marketplace, I've been posting them, and I've kind of heard from other people that it takes time when you do that. So I'm just kind of putting a whole bunch of stuff up. But of course, when you post stuff, you also find stuff that you want to buy. So one of the people that I connected with, he has a nice collection that he's selling some of, and I got a couple of his. This is an excellent Keith Jarrett album. So this is with Dewey Redman, who was kind of one of the young lions of the jazz scene. Charlie Hayden, who I've always loved on bass, and Paul Motion. on drums. So some very familiar names. And the quote on the back here is, "And those that create out of the holocaust of their own inheritance anything more than a convenient self-made tomb shall be known as survivors." So pretty kind of heavy thematic tone to it. Excellent. The first side is a great slow build and really, really good. Second side's a little more kind of out there, and probably by the nature of kind of the theme of all of this, there's going to be some uncomfortable stuff, and there is some uncomfortable stuff there, but well worth the journey for sure. And lastly, got this album from that same gentleman that I got the Keith Jarrett record, and I've been really loving Bill Frisell. Saw him earlier this summer, and in the past there was one Bill Frisell record that I remember for rock fans. It got a lot of attention. I forget what it was called. I'll put it in the notes or the caption below when I find out afterwards. But I've really enjoyed his most recent record, In My Dreams, I think it's called. And this one, a fairly recent one, is also one that I've been streaming quite a bit lately. So I was very happy when the gentleman on Marketplace was selling this and I was able to get a hold of it. A 2 LP release, Valentine, Bill Frisell. There's sort of a theme to a lot of the stuff that I'm really enjoying these days, and a lot of it is about space. It's about creating space, tone, melody, and with some improvisation and kind of journeying and sort of straying from any kind of set structure. And you know, Bill Frisell does that in a beautiful way. It doesn't get too crazy. It still maintains the melodic line, but it definitely goes places, and it's really, really lovely. So the American guitarist, sort of jazz, avant-garde, I suppose, Bill Frisell and Valentine. It's a Blue Note release. I think I mentioned double LP. When we saw him live, he performed What the World Needs Now Is Love, and that's the Burt Bacharach, Hal David song, and it's on this record as well. And it seemed to me like he was sending a message without being overt, which is what the world needs now is love, sweet love. There isn't anything else that we need more than that. So I really like this. And the idea behind this record, as I understand it, was that this is his touring band. It's a 3-piece. It's a great trio. And so it's Rudy Royston and Thomas Morgan. And they have toured with Bill Frisell for years and years. And I believe this is the first record that they've recorded together. So he's worked, I guess, with them and other people, but this is kind of like a release that they wanted to document what it was like as a trio for them to perform, and so they did this. And I think it's a wonderful record. So there we go. That's all for now. Carpe diem, motherfuckers. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Bye-bye.